Hey there, guys. All right, today we are back with some more of the Great War, and it's here. Week 2 fucking 100. Ah, shit, I just swore at the first 5 seconds of the video. YouTube's gonna demonetize that. YouTube demonetizes these fucking videos, the Great War videos anyway. Even though I fucking... Whatever. That's a different kind of rant. I don't know why YouTube demonetization doesn't make much sense at all. Or well, limited ads. Whatever the fuck they mean by that. Anyways, bombs away. German thirst for Caucasian oil. Oh boy, Germany, it always goes well when you thirst for oil. Always does, doesn't it? Damn. Week 200. It feels so weird. It feels so weird to say that. Am I still really going to be the first fucking like person to do the full reaction to every single one of the Great War Weekly episodes? Or am I going to be the first historian to do it? I can't remember which it was. But anyways, that's freaking cool, dude. Before we dive in, make sure you go and check out the links in the description. Oh, all of you that probably still watch this series are probably the ones that have already joined the Discord, followed me at Twitch, and are subscribed to the gaming channel. So like, I don't really know why I need to say it in these videos. Anyways, the brain is a mess today. Let's see how how watching this video goes today. Let's go ahead and dive right in.
As you know, I talk about the war week after week. The battles,
Yes.
the strategy, the home...
I have been here week after week. Well, actually, more than week after week. I've been here twice a week to watch these fast.
front, the triumphs and the tragedies, week by week. And those weeks add up, for this is week 200 of the war.
You know, originally, I was going to watch the series like once a week. I think that was my original plan. I don't know if I ever said that out loud, but like that's what I was originally going to do, I think. I'm glad I didn't do that. Cuz what, we'd be still in week... Would we even be past week 100? I don't think we would. Ugh.
War. I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to the Great War. Last week, the Ottomans occupied Alexandropol and didn't look like they were going to stop marching anytime soon. There was the end of a treason trial in Paris, tension in Ukraine, the arrest of Sinn Féin leaders for collaborating with the Germans in Ireland, and a mutiny in the Austrian army. There was actually yet another mutiny now in the Imperial Army, this one by Czech troops in Rumberg. They refused to go to the front unless they were paid the money they felt they were due from when they had been POWs in Russia. They occupied the town and threatened to march on Prague. Some took the train there, but they were intercepted. At the court-martial, 10 men were sentenced to death and 560 imprisoned. The mutiny may have been over, though, but the...
Hey man, I don't know if you can really afford executing and sending soldiers to jail. I think you might just want to, you know, give in to their demands.
Local governor warned Vienna, had the rebels succeeded in advancing southward, and had they found support, and this was by no means impossible, among the civilians in these regions, we might by now have faced a regular revolution in several parts of Bohemia. And on the 20th, at their barracks at Pech, 2,000 Hungarian troops refused to go to the front and occupied the barracks' weapon stores. Local coal miners helped them. This mutiny was also suppressed. But mutiny, or no mutinies, the army was making plans. I said last month that Austria-Hungary was going to have a new offensive in Italy, since the army was getting back to strength with hundreds of thousands of former POWs returning from Russia. Emperor Karl was deciding between the plans of Konrad von Hotzendorf, who wanted the main offensive to be...
I swear to fucking God, if you listen to fucking Hotzendorf, I swear to God,
on the Ajago Plateau, and Svetozar Boroyevich von Boyna, who wanted to strike the main blow on the Piave River, where he commanded. Karl compromised between the two plans.
Why would you even fucking listen to a single thing that Holzendorf says? He's done nothing successful. What is the logic? Boroyevich is the reason you pushed into Italy, not fucking Holzendorf. No!
Boroyevich would try to break the Piave line and move on Venice, while Conrad would attack the Italian Monte Grappa positions. Austria-Hungary would have 65 infantry divisions and 12 cavalry divisions, which was more than the 56 total Allied divisions there. The Allies, though, had 2-to-1 air superiority and 7,000 big guns and 2,400 mortars to the Austrian 6,800 artillery pieces. So it wasn't exactly a huge Austrian advantage. Speaking of the war in the air, it was pretty hot this week. On the 18th, 33 British planes bombed Cologne, killing 110. On the 19th, the Germans bombed British hospitals at Etaples, causing 300 casualties. That night, 28 German Gothas bombed London. 49 people are killed and 177 injured. 6 Gothas were shot down by British pilots. German air raids the 19th to the 23rd on French munition dumps destroyed over 12,000 tons of Allied ammunition. So, on both sides, the war in the air, while still small, was a really visible part of the war and constantly more effective. British Handley Page bombers attacked the Oppau Chemical Works, Mannheim Gas Works, and the Karthaus Railway Workshop, and on the 22nd, 8 Gothas tried to bomb Paris. 7 were driven off by anti-aircraft fire. But the war in the air was about to take a back seat to a renewed active war on the ground on the Western Front. A few weeks ago, the Battle of La Luce ended, and with it the first wave of the German spring offensives, the Kaiserschlacht. But the second wave is set to begin next week. Operations Blücher, Goetz, and York to cross the Wesel and the Ain-Marne Canal. In the German 1918 offensives, David Zabecki calls the preparations another masterpiece of secrecy and operational security. In fact, the buildup was so well concealed that even now, and right up to the attack, the Allies had no idea where the Germans were going to attack. At first, they thought near Arras, then a week later on the Scarpe, then a week later at La Bassée Canal. Ironically, the intelligence section of the American Expeditionary Force had accurately
Let's go. USA.
predicted the location of the next blow as early as April 25th, derived from order of battle and logistics realities. But the French and British rejected out of hand the assessment of the inexperienced Americans.
Y'all, when it comes to logistics, just listen to the Americans. The moment anything logistic comes into play, American generals are gonna know what it is, right? Like here's the thing. This doesn't mean much to me, right? This statement here inside of this quote does not mean really much of anything to, lead me to think that maybe the Americans just got fucking lucky with their guess, right? This here, knowing what we know about how Americans fight war and essentially how Pershing is trying to prepare his soldiers, his army for the war, with that knowledge available to us, now of course the French and British are definitely, they have their, I don't know if ego would be the right word for it, but they've been fighting this war for 4 years. So for them to I can understand why French and British leadership would kind of want to ignore the Americans. They're like, dude, we've been fighting this war for 4 years. We're not gonna. I can understand it. Still kind of dumb that they would do that, but I can understand. But this statement here, the logistic realities, what we know about how Americans fight war, especially Pershing here, based on the information that we have thus far from this series, you should listen to the Americans when it comes to logistics. You really should. There is no fighting force, I think, in the history of the world that handles the logistics of war as capably as the American army has for the last, honestly, probably since World War One, last 110 years. So yeah.
Americans. The starting date was set for May 27th. The Germans were also going to try to modify another campaign rather than join it directly, but it's won by one of their allies in eastern Anatolia. Let me backtrack a bit. On the 19th, the Turkish 5th Caucasian Division captured Gulu Balak and the Karakaç Pass on the Alexandropol Road. It was still necessary to throw back the Armenian force covering the road junction at Amamli, which itself controlled the highway to Yerevan, the Armenian capital, 125 kilometers away. This soon happened, and Armenian General Silikian near Yerevan was now faced with pressure from the south, east, and north. His main group was attacked near Sardarabad by Ottomans advancing from Alexandropol the 21st. Using all his reserves, he counterattacked at the end of the week and recaptured Sardarabad, pushing the enemy back some 50 kilometers north of the town. That fighting will continue as the week ends. What we're seeing here is really the second phase of Ottoman action in the region this year. Batum and Kars had fallen so easily that Ottoman Minister of War Enver Pasha was thinking of reverting to his 1914 Pan-Turanian offensive, beginning with the conquest of Baku, and then both Caucasian and Persian Azerbaijan, but continuing, assuming Russia kept disintegrating and the World War also continued, with penetrating into Transcaspia and Turkestan, and one day starting a pan-Islamic revolt against the British into southern Persia, Afghanistan, and northern India. Only the regions of Georgia and Armenia stood in the way, it seemed, and their resistance was clearly not even close to insurmountable. However, the big picture would require more troops, since the British might frown on the taking of Baku and Persia, and perhaps even the Soviets would intervene against them. So, even though the situation in Palestine was precarious, Enver had diverted a division on its way home from Romania to Batum instead of Palestine, and then brought in his uncle, Halil Pasha, to command what will be known as the Army of Islam on the Caucasus front. Halil Pasha had been the commander of the forces that encircled and finally forced a British army to surrender after the siege of Kut a couple years ago. He was also one of the main organizers of the Armenian and Assyrian genocides, claiming in his memoirs that he was personally responsible for 300,000 dead. And this year, 1918, in Yerevan, publicly declared, "I have endeavored to wipe out the Armenian nation to the last individual."
Bro isn't just saying the quiet part out loud, he's proudly proclaiming it. The Ottomans have been trying so hard to, like, this entire time to basically, no, we're not committing a genocide here. And then this motherfucker is like, damn right I am. How, like, we have fucking, this man right here is quoting, this is a direct quote from this fucking man. You can't deny the Armenian genocide. Like, this quote alone is enough to fucking make it proof that there was an Armenian genocide happening. God, genocide deniers on the internet piss me off more than I think anyone. Anyways.
Thing is, it wasn't just the British who soon noticed Ottoman aspirations in the region. The Germans did too, and their plans might conflict with those of the Ottomans. Remember, Germany now had control of the north of the Black Sea. German Colonel Kress von Kressenstein, who had been working with the Ottoman army in Palestine, even appeared at the Batum conference last week to establish good relations with the Georgians in the Transcaucasian Diet. See, the Germans didn't care about Pan-Turanianism. They cared very deeply, though, about the oil at Baku, of which they were in great need, but thought that if it was in Ottoman hands, very little would be produced, even if it was under Enver Pasha's private control. Kressenstein knew that the Georgian troops could not stop the Army of Islam, but the Turks, his allies remember, might be embarrassed and replan if the Georgians were covered by a German flag. The Georgians, for their part, saw the Germans as their only protection. Kressenstein was now mobilizing all men of German origin in and around Tiflis, which included prisoners of war, people from old German settlements like Helenendorf, and even his personal legation. And here are a couple of notes to round out the week. On May 16th, General Mannerheim entered Helsinki with 16,000 men to celebrate the Whites' victory over the Reds, over a century of Tsarist rule, and 6 months of Bolshevik or German military control, or just chaos, were now over. On the 23rd, the British War Cabinet decided to send a 560-man military mission to Archangel and a 600-man one to Murmansk. They were offering to train the hundreds of thousands of anti-Bolshevik Russians to defend themselves against any future Bolshevik attack. And that was the week. Another mutiny in Austria, action in the skies in the west, German preparations on the ground, fighting way over in the southeast, and the Germans trying to figure out how they might secure a new oil reserve. From their allies, I mean, that's pretty heavy, right? Trying to semi-sabotage their allies' plans so that they could get the oil. But of course, the oil comes first. I mean, from a 2018 perspective, we all know the need for oil in war. But the Germans in 1918 were discovering that it was just as true back then. And in modern war, sometimes oil comes before allies. 200 weeks of war, 200 weeks of coverage from us. And we never could have gotten so far with our show without your incredible support. So thank you from everyone. Say thank you, guys. Thank you from all of us to our patrons for keeping this show afloat. I mean, it's been really fun and it's been really amazing. 200 weeks. Can you believe we've been doing this that long? And thanks to everyone who believed in us enough to support us. Okay, if you'd like to know more about strategic bombing during World War I, you can click right here for a special episode about that. Do not forget to subscribe.
And that was bombs away. German thirst for Caucasian oil, the Great War, week 200. This is quite possibly one of the greatest series I think ever made on the history of YouTube. Just the sheer scope of what they are trying to cover and how successful they are at it. Like the amount of depth and really understanding to World War One through the eyes of the people at the time that this show has given me is insane, right? Like I like to think I'm pretty good at looking at historical information, at letters and things like that, and kind of getting an idea as to how people at the time would have felt. This show is doing it so well for me. Like I feel like I'm really getting a goddamn good ass grasp as to what the emotions at the time were like. Like right now, here in week 200, if I didn't know the end of World War One and what comes after, quite honestly, based on the information that we've gotten thus far as of week 200, it really does feel like the Central Powers are winning. They've just knocked out Russia. They just knocked out an enemy while fighting on two fronts at the same time. And now they can focus all their effort on a singular front. Like, whereas while the British and French do have overseas colonies, they are still spread out across multiple different fronts, right? You got the British and French in France, British and French in Italy, British and French, just the British, in Africa, British and Portuguese in Africa, British in the Middle East, right? Like, they have so much fucking going on. And while in, I think, 1916 and a good bit of 1917, it kind of felt like the Allies were making some gains. Now here, at this point in 1918, spring of 1918, it really feels like, oh no, wait a minute. Things look like they're going in the German favor right now. And that's something that, like, I feel like is hard to really convey in a classroom, in really most any study of World War One, because of just typically how the education around World War One is just done. But here you have a show going week by week, of World War One. So really, you kind of are going along with the ride as things are happening, right? And so, even though I know the end, I know what comes, in the moment, I'm like, dude, Germans are winning, right? And that's so fucking cool. So yeah, this was week 200. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.